and I'm a hairstylist, and I'm from New Orleans. For over 51 years. This business has been very good to me. I've seen this business change. I started in the early 60s, worked my way through the 70s and 80s, 90s, and having to stay current into the 2010s to stay competitive. As good a hairdresser as I can possibly be, and to maintain that. And how that's done is by staying on top of your game and staying current. I'm not allowed the luxury of being just a good hairdresser. After 51 years, I have to be an excellent hairdresser.
Throughout your career, what is the most difficult moment that you never forgot?
Well, there's been several. The most difficult moment that I never forgot was being in this business, and you do people for many, many years. A lot of times you're called to do them after death. As sad as it was, and I have to say this was the most difficult thing I did, but it was a privilege. I had a son that died almost 2 years ago, but I had the privilege of going to the funeral home, cutting his hair, getting him ready, saying goodbye to him. It took all of these 50 years, first of all, for me to become who I am. And second of all, I had the privilege of being there when the industry changed. When I started this business, it was simple shampoo, simple products, rough products, hard products, and you work very hard for very little money. I saw products become more sophisticated, more buffered, more available to the client, easier for the client to use, it made my job easier. You have to remember, when I went in this business, we did haircuts for $1.50.
$1.50?
$1.50.
And how long ago?
1963 and 64.
Wow. Obviously $1.50 about that time, probably equivalent to probably $20 or $25 now.
Yeah, considering you could buy 10 loaves of bread for $1, you're right.
Yeah. Very good. My understanding, you was a former Navy.
I was.
Now, share a little bit about your background.
Well,
you were cutting hair.
Yes. When I went in, I had already been to cosmetology school as a very young boy. But back then you couldn't take a state board test until you were 18. So I hadn't taken a test, but when I went to the list in the service, which I thought I was going to the Marines and ended up in the Navy, all they saw was hair. So they just said, "Oh, you're a barber." I'd never been to barber school in my life. You don't talk back. I went through boot camp. They put a pair of clippers in my hand and said, "Cut hair." I became a barber.
Oh, so you became a barber before?
No, actually how it happened was I got grandfathered in. After being in the Navy and doing hair for so many years, I was in a salon in New Orleans that needed a barber. So I was grandfathered in by the state of Louisiana and given the license as a barber. That salon was in the Hotel Intercontinental, which I worked for almost 20 years, which was a wonderful salon to work in. Not that I was a special hairdresser, but when you work in a 5-star hotel, you are bound to be the hairdresser that does everybody that comes through a 5-star hotel, which includes diplomats, celebrities, movie stars, wannabe movie stars, and it was a privilege and a lot of fun.
What kind of movie have you ever done?
Oh, several movies.
Such as?
Lolita, which is not a very nice story.
That was filmed in
New Orleans, yeah. It was filmed in New Orleans.
And you were playing
no, I was a hairdresser.
Oh, you were a hairdresser?
Always a hairdresser on the set.
Okay.
Mostly extras. I did a couple primaries, but mostly extras, which was long hours. I loved working theater. and film. Theater's much easier to work because you go in at 5:30 and you know you're out the door at a certain time, whereas film, you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning on the set at 6. You set 3 hours, you don't know if you're going to work or not. The nice thing is you get paid whether you do or not, depending on the budget of the film, and they tell you you're going to work till 6 o'clock that night, and you end up working till midnight and have to be back there again. I'm too old.
Let's start with Jackson Square. This is the heart of the French Quarter, and perhaps the heart of New Orleans from the very start. In the past, this is where you could have seen a public execution. But today, the most you're going to find are street artists who would love to paint your portrait. When visiting the square, don't miss a great photo opportunity in front of the historic St. Louis Cathedral, Cabildo, and the Presbytery buildings. At number 9, we have a cemetery. It's rare to find a city that considers most of its cemeteries as tourist attractions, but the combination of the above-ground burial and the history of voodoo and black magic made the cemeteries of New Orleans extremely popular with tourists. Watch our special video guide on voodoo in New Orleans and learn about the best cemeteries to visit. At the number 8 spot, we take a break from the hot and humid New Orleans weather, and we escape to one place that can almost guarantee you a nice breeze: the Moonwalk Riverside Promenade. Located not far away from Jackson Square, Moonwalk offers you a way to take a break from your sightseeing, see the Mississippi, watch some steamboats, and enjoy street performers and acrobats. In 7th place, we go back to the French Quarter to find another popular destination, Royal Street. This is probably the most beautiful and elegant street in the French Quarter. When visiting Royal Street, head to the section known as the Upper French Quarter, where you'll find some famous antique shops and art galleries. Our tip: visit Royal Street during the afternoon in the area between St. Anne and St. Louis Street. This area becomes closed to traffic and it attracts numerous street performers. Next, we have the National World War II Museum. It is very rare to see a national museum outside of Washington, D.C., but New Orleans won the honor of housing this museum thanks to the famous Higgins boats. Manufactured here in New Orleans, these boats carried the troops to the Normandy shores on D-Day. Entrance is not cheap, but if you watch our special video guides at vidtour.com, you can learn ways to visit the museum and other New Orleans attractions for free. In 5th place, we have the Garden District, an extremely popular tourist destination in New Orleans. Second only to the famous French Quarter, the Garden District is an elegant and beautiful residential district that managed to preserve its 19th century mansions. The most interesting and historical mansions are located on Coliseum and Prytania Streets. Unlike the hectic nature of the French Quarter, the Garden District is all about peaceful walks. Reaching number 4, we have the Superdome. This is one of the modern symbols of New Orleans and is one of the biggest stadiums in the States. It opened in 1975 on a former cemetery site. It's the home of the New Orleans Saints. The dome also acts as a hurricane shelter, but unfortunately it did not manage to handle the power of Hurricane Katrina, when more than 30,000 locals were stranded here for 6 days. The dome was reopened after renovation in 2006. In 3rd place, we bring you some art and culture. The New Orleans Art Museum and the adjacent sculpture garden remind us that this city has many faces. The museum has a collection of more than 40,000 pieces of art, including the works of Picasso, Monet, and Matisse. The adjoining sculpture garden is free to enter and shows the works of Rodin, Renier, and Henry Moore. almost at the top. In second place, we find New Orleans Jazz. Yes, it's not really a place, but a visit to New Orleans has to include at least one visit to a jazz venue. If you're on a tight schedule, you may prefer to take a jazz cruise with a live jazz band, so you can combine some good music with some sightseeing. Watch our special jazz guide at vidtour.com. Finally at the top, and it has to be Bourbon Street, the most popular and colorful street in the French Quarter. Historically, this was the red light district of the city. This is the home of the Mardi Gras Festival, but it's extremely popular 365 days a year. Bourbon Street is the home to the oldest bar in the United States, the Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop, and to the Pat O'Brien's Bar, where both the dueling piano show and the Hurricane cocktail were invented.
Riding on the city of New Orleans, Illinois Central, Monday morning rain. 15 cars and 15 restless riders. 3 conductors had 25 sacks of mail. All along the southbound Odyssey, the train pulls out from Kankakee and rolls along past houses, farm to field. Passing trains that have no names, and freight yards filled with black men, and the graveyards of the rusted automobile. Good morning, America, how are you? Say, don't you know me? I'm your native son. I'm a train they call the city of New Orleans, and I'll be gone 500 miles when the day's done. Memphis, Tennessee. Halfway home, we'll be there by morning. Through the Mississippi darkness rolling down to the sea. But the town and the people seem to just fade into a bad dream, and the steel rails still ain't heard the news. Conductor, sing your songs again. Passengers will please refrain. This train has got to disappear in railroad blues. Good morning, America, how are you? Say, don't you know me? I'm your native son. Darling,